right now on the Daily Debrief.
Then where's she at?
I don't know where she is.
Where's her body at?
I don't know where she is.
She's dead though. You
I
know
don't
that?
believe that.
Police corner the former CSI now accused of murder,
Ashley MacArthur called about updates on the case.
and who they say spent a lot of time checking in on the case before her arrest. Also, a Florida man convicted of dropping his daughter to her watery death is back in court. Plus, the woman who suffered medical abuse at the hands of the mother she later plotted to kill has broken off a jailhouse engagement. The Daily Debrief recaps the day in court. It's Wednesday, August 28th. Welcome to the Debrief, everybody. Aaron Keller along with Elizabeth Crotty. Good to see you here in studio.
Thanks for having me.
Our other guests will be with us in just a moment. Day 3 of the Florida prosecution of a former crime fighter who now finds herself on the other side of the law. For key facts on the case, here is Rachel Stockman.
Police Department.
42-year-old Ashley MacArthur used to be the one investigating crimes. Now she finds herself at the defense table, facing charges of first-degree murder in the death of police officer Taylor Wright, who is only 33 years old. During opening statements, prosecutors made it clear this was all about money.
You will see the pressure that Taylor Wright was putting on Ashley MacArthur to get this money. And the reason that matters is because the money was gone. Ashley MacArthur had spent it.
Prior to her death, MacArthur and Wright, who were longtime friends, exchanged texts about the $34,000 the victim put in MacArthur's bank account for safekeeping. Wright's body was found buried in a, quote, clandestine grave at a farm owned by MacArthur's aunt 6 weeks after she went missing.
She was skeletonized. She was wrapped in a hammock. She had a bullet hole in the back right side of her skull, and she had potting soil and concrete poured on top of her.
MacArthur was arrested that same day. A few days later, investigators found video footage of MacArthur buying soil and concrete at a local Home Depot. The defense fired back in their openings, saying there is no physical, scientific, or eyewitness evidence against MacArthur.
The evidence will show you that the state's case is built on, yes, lies told by Ashley MacArthur, a motive she may have had, things that she did, ways that she lived her life that you may not like.
For Law&Crime Network, I'm Rachel Stockman.
The defendant spoke with police 3 times before she was arrested. During a first interview at home, the defendant blamed the victim.
The last day that you spent with her, did she seem like she was acting any different than normal?
Not really. She was upset about this court case that she had going on and really thought that her ex-husband was going to try to put her back in jail. He thought he was trying to ruin her career, put her back in jail, because she blames him for her not being caught anymore.
What's your feel on this? What do you...
I think she's probably just off acting like a nut. I mean, at first I was really worried about her, and I got really mad at her about it, you know, but I think she's kind of just playing people, because that's like, after hearing all this, all this is a game to her.
Is she suicidal? Is she using narcotics to where she could potentially OD? Is she perfectly fine and doesn't want to be bothered? And but the thing is,
I don't think she's perfectly fine and doesn't want to be bothered. She's either had some sort of mental break and is not thinking, too much drugs, or something. You know what I mean? Like, I guess she could technically be fine in doing all of this on her own accord, but in any case, it's crazy.
During a second interview, the defendant talked about the last time she saw the victim.
We were just hanging out. I mean, it really wasn't a very odd day.
Yeah.
I didn't get the impression that, she was upset about the Jeff situation, but, it wasn't unusual for Taylor to call me and be like, hey, do you just want to come ride around with me today, or whatever. And most of the time I didn't because I had to work, but she'd call and say, I just want to come hang out, and skip over, sitting at home, I guess, and whatever. She was a strange girl.
Had she asked before that at any point to go get the money?
Yeah, and I had been super busy that week.
And how long was the money at the house?
Probably just a couple weeks.
Can you kind of describe to me what the mood was like, the conversation was like?
She was fine. She just said that she wanted to go have a beer and that she was going to get an Uber to take her to go have a beer. And I said, well, I can just drop you back off at your car. And she's like, well, I don't want to drive. I went inside, and when I came back out, she had already gone.
Okay.
Where's all her bags at?
Well, she left the stuff in my car, or in Zach's truck, and when I didn't hear from her later, until Cass didn't hear from her, and then so I called Cass. I'm like, hey, I have this stuff that she left in here, and I knew it was expensive stuff.
Also in that second interview, the defendant said the victim came across as tough and was not an easy target. Now, this was back when the victim was missing, before she was actually found dead. The defendant said the only reason she was worried was because the victim took drugs.
I don't believe Taylor's been harmed. I think Taylor's doing what Taylor does. But I don't know, the only thing that I can think, Taylor is a very tough person. She's always come across as being tough and never made it anything other than, she's always carrying weapons, whether it's knives or guns or whatever. She's not an easy target. She seems to always have everything together to a degree. The only thing I worry about is with the drug situation. Like, I wouldn't even, if I didn't know about the drug situation, I wouldn't be worried about her. I would say Taylor's doing what Taylor does. But then that lifestyle becomes a different group of people.
Sure.
Which is what I worry about with her.
Okay, during yet a third interview, investigators began asking the defendant point blank whether she could take them to the victim's body.
Where's Taylor at? You need to tell us where she's at.
I don't know where Taylor is. I don't have a clue.
Well, if you were put in a situation where someone pushed you to do something for whatever reason, maybe against your will, perhaps in self-defense, if something happened and you're scared, don't be scared. Okay, if something happened, like I said, you're not a bad person. You're not a career criminal. This is a person who's traveled across states to take care of a friend. If something happened, tell us.
I don't know where she is.
We have a detective talking to Kyle right now. We know you texted Kyle and asked him if he was at that farm on the 8th. Multiple times.
May have. I don't.
Then you withhold that information from us. The person who is trying to help a friend out, who cares for their friends, doesn't lie to the police when they are looking for them.
I didn't think that was...
Tell me what you did to her.
I didn't do anything to her.
Tell me what Zach did.
Somebody harmed her, and she's probably out of that farm.
Zach was never even around her.
Kyle.
Kyle's never been around her.
Brandon.
Never been around her.
So that leaves you.
So you're the only one that was with her on this day at this farm that you did not disclose to us.
I didn't do anything to
You
her.
say this, if she's at that farm, we're going to find her because we're executing a search warrant out there right now.
That's fine, but she's not going to be there.
Then where's she at?
I don't know where she is.
Where's her body at?
I don't know where she is.
She's dead, though. You
I
know
don't
that?
believe that. I don't believe that at all.
Police arrested the defendant right after that interview. A detective testified that back during the investigation, however, the defendant was actually calling and checking up on the case for which she is now on trial. The defendant even claimed at one point to have a lead on the victim's whereabouts, a place called Destin, Florida, right on the Gulf Coast.
Ashley MacArthur referenced believing that Taylor was in Destin a lot. Several statements in the phone call with some reference to Destin.
Believing that Taylor was in Destin?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the September 28th phone call, what stood out to you in that phone call?
Again, Ashley MacArthur called about updates on the case. I want to say she may have mentioned in that one about hospital stay or something she believed Taylor may have been in. I could be mixing them up, but for me to check hospitals, she stated she wasn't going to give away any of the victim's property that she had.
Okay. On October 2nd, what stood out to you during that phone call?
Sure. Again, another phone call from MacArthur. One of the questions I asked was that if Taylor owed anyone money or if anyone owed Taylor money, and Ashley stated no.
The defendant's husband testified that he was out of town when prosecutors think the victim was killed. His testimony suggests that the defendant had ample opportunity to kill the victim.
The sun was going down in the evening, so it was an afternoon wedding.
Before you and Ashley went to this wedding, do you know what Ashley had been doing on September 9th?
No, ma'am.
What were you doing before the wedding?
Ma'am,
What were you doing before the wedding?
I went to the hunting camp,
Where was the hunting camp?
Evergreen, Alabama. I picked up another friend early that morning before daylight, and we went up there. We had a lot of work to do. I mean, prior to hunting season, that's basically all I do.
You're at a hunting camp in Evergreen, Alabama. You don't know where Ashley is.
No, ma'am.
Where was the wedding itself?
In Alberta, Alabama.
And did you and Ashley ride together to this wedding on September 9th?
Yes, ma'am.
What car did you guys drive?
My white Jeep.
Key testimony in this case came from one of the defendant's friends. The friend said the defendant spoke poorly of the victim and even wanted to harm her. This testimony is extremely damaging for the defense.
About putting cocaine in her beer.
Okay. And can you tell us, if you recall the date and where this conversation took place?
September 7th at Sticks Billiards.
What did Ashley say to you about Taylor that night?
That the world would be a better place without Taylor.
What specifically did Ashley say about cocaine?
How much coke do you think it would take to kill somebody?
Were you drinking alcohol at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there anything about your alcohol level that would impair your ability to remember that conversation?
No, ma'am.
How much alcohol did you see Ashley drink before that conversation?
Not a lot.
And why did you and Ashley leave Sticks to go to Babes?
To purchase some cocaine.
At some point after this night on September 7th, 2017, did you ask Ashley what she did with the cocaine?
I think I asked, what did she do with it?
And what did she tell you?
That she put it in her beer and Taylor spit it out because she said it tasted sour.
Wow, two attorneys with us tonight. Elizabeth Crotty is a former prosecutor and current criminal defense attorney joining us here in New York. Eklund Mercy is a criminal defense attorney in Atlanta. So, Eklund, what's going on here? Cocaine in beer to try to take out the victim, allegedly. And then you've got the defendant's words here. We listened to all those interrogations. She's saying things like the victim was acting like a nut, may have had a mental break. She was a strange girl. I don't think she was harmed. She was not an easy target. Then I'm concerned about this drug situation. Then the victim might be in the hospital, then might be in this resort town. I mean, does this defendant just keep talking and talking and talking and basically hang herself with her own words?
I think she probably fell asleep while watching Gone Girl, because it just seems like that's basically the plot that she's basically relaying now. You have this complicated victim with so many issues, with so many people having issues with her. She brings in the drugs, which is really convenient because we also have, with every lie, there should be a kernel of truth. So what she's trying to harp on is the little kernel of truth to try to make a defense. But what we just watched is it's not even going good for her. When you have your own husband who doesn't use spousal privilege and testifies against you in the state's case, that's a problem. I think it's just it's really, really messy. She didn't do anything with her testimony. I mean, with her interviews, nothing helped her defense. It's pretty awful.
Eklund Mercy not believing the defense at all. Eklund, you're starting to sound like a prosecutor here. I'm getting worried. So Elizabeth here in New York with me. So, are these statements from this defendant in these interviews, are they
helpful, or is she stalling? I mean, how do we take that?
I mean, these interviews are horrible for her. I don't understand why, knowing that these interviews were out there, she decided to then go to trial. I mean, she gave a whole full line background story, everything, that she thought she could control the narrative, except she couldn't control the actual facts. So the narrative that she was putting forward in those tapes and when talking to the police had actually nothing to do with rooted in any kind of fact. So when you're trying to create a narrative, the key thing is having facts. She had not one fact on her side. So I don't understand, how this case even got this far to going to trial, knowing that those interviews existed, knowing that the police had, when you have a trial, you get all the information beforehand, and in getting all the information beforehand, given that landscape of what was given to them, why did they even go forward with a trial in this case?
It may have been because there was a bad offer. And look, we could have a huge debate here, the three of us, about whether or not she should even have been speaking to the police in the first place rather than remaining silent. But that'll be another debate for another day, because still ahead here on The Debrief, more witnesses and more testimony in this MacArthur trial, plus the woman whose mother told the whole world she suffered from rare medical ailments, and this defendant who later conspired to kill her own mother because of it has broken off a prison engagement to be married. That case and more when we come back here on The Debrief. A Florida judge will issue a decision by October 1st about whether John Johnchuk deserves a new trial. The Debrief covered the original case earlier this year, where Johnchuk was convicted of killing his 5-year-old daughter by dropping her off a bridge and into the water below. Johnchuk's defense was legal insanity, but a jury disagreed and found him sane and responsible. His defense claims certain expert testimony should not have been admitted at trial. The Missouri woman who asked her boyfriend to help her kill her mother after she suffered years of abuse has reportedly broken off her jailhouse engagement. Gypsy Blanchard pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and testified against her boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, who was himself convicted of first-degree murder. Blanchard agreed to marry a man named Ken, but a source told E! News that both want to work on themselves as individuals first. Now back to the trial of Ashley MacArthur, where prosecutors allege that a former CSI killed a former police officer because of money. The defendant's ex-boyfriend testified that the defendant spent a lot of money on him.
What was your business relation? What was the connection?
She owned the jukebox that was in my building.
And at some point, did you and Miss MacArthur start a sexual relationship?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did Ashley MacArthur come up to your bar regularly?
Yes, ma'am.
How often would she come up there in a week?
Every day.
Was she paying the Gulf Power bill at Styx?
She did a couple times.
Was she buying supplies at Sam's Club for your business?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
Okay. In approximately August of 2017, did she buy your motorcycle?
I'm not sure the date, but yes, she did purchase a motorcycle.
Did Miss MacArthur also buy you a boat?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it a 1978 Post fishing yacht?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And does July 2017 sound perhaps right?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. How much was that boat?
30 grand.
And how was that boat paid for?
She brought me $15,000 in cash, and then she went and paid the remainder. I don't know if she paid him in cash or check or whatever. She went and paid the remainder.
Okay. Did she pay for your cell phone?
She did give me a cell phone, correct. Yeah.
Okay. But she paid the bill for it?
On that phone, yes, ma'am.
All right. How many phones did you have?
2.
Remember, the prosecutor said money was the motive, and money has been a common subject in this case. The victim's ex-husband testified about financial issues he had with his former wife before she died.
The last time it occurred was 12 July 2017.
And how much did she withdraw?
$100,000.
Now, was Taylor in trouble with the court about that?
That's correct.
Did Taylor, back in September 2017, did she also owe you some child support?
That's correct.
Was she supposed to be placing some money back into an escrow account?
Yes.
Did you and Taylor have a court date in September of 2017?
Yes.
And do you recall the date?
There were 2. The first one was supposed to be on 7 September, and that was continued And the second date, I believe, was the 12th of September.
The ex-husband also testified about contacting the defendant when his former wife disappeared. Here, he describes what the defendant told him. If the defendant is truly the killer, then this description is chilling.
I was trying to find Taylor. I'd been trying to do basically some detective work, talking with all of the people I knew that were in her circle of friends down in Pensacola, trying to get any information I could about where she was, try to help an old friend, basically. From knowing who Taylor's friends were and just seeing on her list of contacts that Ashley was one of them, I messaged her.
Okay. And did Ms. MacArthur appear to respond, or
Yes,
her
she
account? Did. Okay. And did you ask her if she maybe knew where Taylor was?
I did.
And what responses did she give you?
In macro, she said that she had last seen Taylor with 2 backpacks, significant amount of money, that Taylor was nervous about the upcoming trial.
Back to our panel one final time tonight. Eklund Mercy in Atlanta, Elizabeth Crotty here with me in New York. So, Eklund, what's the CSI doing here? She trying to throw everybody, including the victim's ex-husband, off the trail here? What kind of CSI was she?
Not a good one, because she didn't. She apparently, her car just stopped in the county that she was in. She's not a good one. She didn't do. This is sad. This is sad. You would expect more from a former CSI. I think, like, even a precursor to watching a few episodes of CSI Miami would have told you not to do everything that she did in this case.
But look, Eklund, you just said this isn't Miami. I mean, Elizabeth, just in the final couple of seconds we have left here, what should the defense be doing in this case? Is there anything more the defense might be able to do?
I mean, after losing the motion to suppress those statements, I think that's when you I think you, as Eklund said earlier today, you have to create reasonable doubt. You have to put holes in it. It is, at the end of the day, still a circumstantial case. There is no one who has direct evidence that Ashley MacArthur pulled the trigger and killed her. So I think when you do that, you just have to keep poking holes. And I don't think that they've been that effective in doing it.
The defense basically saying, look, there were all these other love interests who were entangled in the money issues. Maybe we'll see more of that when the defense case in chief comes out, but we don't know.
We don't know. I mean, I just think he started today when he asked, about the construction progress at her house, but it's just not enough.
Not enough. All right. Thanks a lot to the panel. Thanks for those of you joining us here on The Debrief. We appreciate it. We'll be back here for you tomorrow.